Round one, definitely a keep. Nice looking hand, actually. We get to go drone into Infiltrator, into Mindraker, potentially. And we've got our nice little processing plan set up already. Anticipates a fine draw. Maybe help us find our fourth land if we can't find it. Green-white. No turn 2 play. Alright. There's our fourth land. Pretty much just offer trades if available. Looks like opponent missed land there. So we're going to get our ingest on. Hopefully hit a land. Did not hit a land, so opponent's likely playing Converge deck. See, we actually... Here's a time where ingest actually fed our opponent a land. Mindraker's not going to get there as well as I would like because our opponent's got a grip full of cards, but still definitely worth playing. Pilgrim's Eye, okay. Well, that's not the turn 3 play we should really be worried about, so that's good news. Alright, found the third color. Could have Skyrider Elves in there. We saw a couple during the draft. I think there's pretty high probability that's what we're going to be dealing with here. But let's get in. No blocks. Alright. Let's see what we ingest. Vestige of Emrakul. That's a weird one. And a forest. Was not expecting the Vestige, especially after my opponent found an island. But let's play Mindraker here. And we'll process. Loses the Territorial Bailoff, sure. So opponent plays Island Skyrider Elf, and it'll be a 4/4 flyer, which is pretty powerful on our board. But I guess we'll have the Guardian follow-up, which is pretty nice. And we still get to ping away with Infiltrator. So anticipate maybe the turn after we play Guardian to help us find one of our Awaken cards. So we can get some nice Tidecaller value. Ruination Guide would be pretty insane on this board too. Clutch Occurrence for no value is really not that intimidating. No attacks with Pilgrim's Eye is interesting. I wonder if that means my opponent's ready to block, or maybe he has a combat trick. But regardless, we're just going to swing and still just play Guardian. It's too strong to pass up here. Makes all our future land drops just so much better. So opponent didn't want me to ingest there. That's interesting. Okay. Find a red mana, another white mana. Now that's interesting because I did mill a Oh, I already had the red mana. I was going to say. So now Skyrider Elf maybe? And this is renewal. All right. Gain some life. Ramp. So I guess we get to go anticipate Infiltrator maybe at worst. All right, we're going to keep the land. Let's go anticipate pre-combat. Sky Spawner seems pretty good. Get another flyer. Strangler's fine too. probably not necessary. We have Rush of Ice. Sky Spawner gives us another evasive guy, which I like more. I think I'm going to take Sky Spawner over Strangler there. Coom Hellkite. Well, that would have been intimidating. So playing Sky Spawner now just puts more bodies on the board. Ruination Guide would be pretty strong draw. If he's just playing one big fatty, we've got the out with Rush of Ice. Could have Board Wipe, I guess, which I didn't really play around. Quarantine Field for 3. It's pretty good. So he's going to hit this, this, and this maybe? Probably. So we still get to get in for pretty good damage. Ruination Guide would be a real good draw. That'd let us do some devastating work for us. All right. Well, guess we can start playing lands again. Let's get in for 3. Ingest. Earthen Arms. All right. Play the Infiltrator, play a Swamp, and then pass. I mean, I don't have a way to get rid of Quarantine Field, so I probably can just go to town playing lands at this point. Kozilek's Channeler, sure. There's the Skyrider Elf. Okay. Horribly awry. So I can Rush of Ice, but the problem is I can't attack. I do get to Rush of Ice. I probably am. I feel like I'm better holding up Rush of Ice, but the thing is, I can play Rush of Ice and play Tidecaller the next turn, and it's kind of a slow process. It might be better to just attack with Infiltrator, pass. Wait, my opponent's at... I can also play Rush of Ice, play Tidecaller. Actually, because I can tap both his guys down. Like, I can play Rush of Ice, play Tidecaller, play Rush of Ice, get in for 4, bring my opponent to 3, but I don't get any creatures out of it. It's probably better to just Rush of Ice, next turn Tidecaller. Yeah, I think that's the best. So let's go land Rush of Ice. I'm actually going to do it to a tapped land, because if he has removal, I still want to be able to cast Horribly Awry on a creature if he has one. Because I'm not attacking with the creature anyway. This makes sense in my mind, believe me. So, tap the Elf. We'll get in with the Infiltrator. Leave up Horribly Awry. Breaker of Armies, jeez. That guy's big. So, next turn I get to play Tidecaller. Possibly even use Rush of Ice again. Alright, Coastal Discovery is pretty good. Ooh, that's going to punish that attack. That's a really dangerous attack. I guess opponent's in a hurry, but that's especially if they don't have a follow-up play. But even if they do, we've got their Awry now. Yeah. I think opponent's in big trouble now. So we get to go Tidecaller, bring back Rush of Ice. This gets to fly over. All right. So basically just punished our opponent's channeler play. I mean, there's no way they could have known about the horribly awry, but it just so happens that my opponent should have pre-combat tried to cast the Tajuru Stalwart. I've definitely made that mistake before too, though. Just didn't play around the counter. Horribly awry being an uncommon too. It's not a counter spell that you typically play around, so it kind of makes sense, but my opponent had to know that attack was kind of dangerous. Rising Miasma doesn't look particularly good in this match. My opponent played a bunch of, like, it looked like stalwarts and big things. So that kind of makes me want to play Myers Malice, a second one instead. I just don't think Miasma is going to get there. Wasteland Strangler could get there, but it doesn't do much against a converged Stalwart, which is a problem. Probably want the second Myers Mouse. We could do Bone Splinters, which is fine. Not great. I think we'll probably go Myers Mouse. It seems better, especially since our opponent's playing actual ramp cards. When your opponent's playing ramp, discard just gets infinitely better, I think. I don't have a way to deal with Quarantine Field, which is definitely a problem. That card is very strong, but I don't think there's anything we can really do about that, so we'll just have to keep the rest the same. Demon's Grasp deals with enough things where I want to keep it in, definitely. Kills Coastal Discovery Land or a Kozilek's Channeler or Skyrider Elf. Yeah, those are all pretty important ones. I might want to consider Bone Splinters. Is there something else that's weak in here? Not particularly. I guess, no, even Horribly Awry is actually pretty good. He's got some powerhouse. Tajuru Stalwart's very good in his deck, so I guess that sort of makes sense. I think Dampening Pulse is actually pretty good against him too. All right, I guess we'll keep the rest the same. Yeah, this hand's actually very good. So we're going to open up with the Cascade, which is fine. So right now, Infiltrator into Strangler is the plan, which I guess is fine. Sky Spawner's good too, but we want to get that Infiltrator online. We want to be able to Merc Strider and Mindraker and Strangler and all that nonsense. No plays yet. We're on turn 3. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't F6 there because I have to pretend like I have Horribly Awry up. But I can F6 value now. All right. So now we're in pretty good shape, actually. Strangler does not deal with that, but if I draw a land, I can Merc Strider, which is a good tempo play against my opponent. Didn't get the land. Probably just want to Sky Spawn now so I can play 4 or 5 drops next turn. Strangler does not do much here, though. Infuse, it's a good card. Actually, Infuse isn't that great against us because we have clutch in Merc Strider, but that's all right. So let's play Sky Spawner here instead of the Culling Drone. Even though Culling Drone's got Ingest, which is good with our hand, we're going to be able to, I think, ping my opponent a couple times here. So take our damage. Vestige just seems out of place in my opponent's deck. So my opponent's missing a bunch of colors currently. Territorial Baloth's good, but if we draw a land, we've got the Merc Strider. Didn't get the land. So, yeah, I guess we can just swing with everything. My opponent blocks, I get to Strangle, which is probably fine. I feel like my opponent likely blocks. I could have just played... I could just play Merc Strider and bounce Baloth, but I feel like I'd rather do Strangler to just deal with Baloth. Yeah, let's just swing. Well, I mean, the nice thing about this is if my opponent doesn't block, I get an extra damage, and if my opponent does block, I get to Strangle and kill Baloth. So both of those options seem good to me. All right, so my opponent decided to take it. So we're going to do the Merc Strider. Well, I got rid of Quarantine Field. I actually wouldn't have minded if he drew Quarantine Field there, but all right. So we'll play the Merc Strider. Get to bounce the Baloth. And get Infused back. So if he just replays Baloth, might just clutch plus Culling Drone. It's good tempo. Yeah, looks like that's what we're going to do. Got the land. I think we still... Yeah, I still think that we... I mean, I could also Mindraker. I think we just clutch here. Let's clutch plus Culling Drone. It's just good tempo. Cinderglade. All right. Well, I guess I wouldn't have minded if my opponent drew that. All right. Opponent found blue mana. So could play a big Skyrider Elf now. Clutching Benthic Infiltrator, sure. So I can Strangle... Is my opponent going to attack for 6? That'd be pretty dangerous. I'd like it, though. Playing it cautious, wisely. We still get to fly over with Sky Spawner, which is pretty insane. Ooh, Rune Processor. Yeah, I think we're just going to eliminate one of my opponent's lands. Play the Strangler here. Which seems fine to me. We're not going to swing with everything, though. So I guess we just swing Sky Spawner, play Strangler, and pass. Okay. Seeking, which means my opponent's not going to be playing Territorial Baloth this turn. More likely playing Tajuru Stalwart, I guess, based on the lands they left up. Pilgrim's Eye, okay. So just a chump blocker. Actually, can trade with the Sky Spawner. So now I'm incentivized to play Dampening Pulse, which I think is pretty acceptable. Can I attack with everything? So my opponent gets to eat one of these and then takes a lot of damage. Yeah, we're gonna play Dampening Pulse and get in there with everything. I don't think I have a better play. Yeah, it's just Pulse here. So my opponent's gonna take 5, which I think is worthwhile. So eat that. Okay. Yeah, I guess chumping either way, so that makes sense. Earthen Arms gone, sure. Okay. All right, another Pilgrim's Eye. Dampening Pulse doing some work. Definitely doing some work here. Okay. Skyder Elf. Big boy. Opponent's got 4 cards in hand. Silent Skimmer. Yeah, that might be the one we're looking for. We just play that and pass. Opponent can't even block and kill Silent Skimmer currently. So we know opponent's got Territorial Baloth in hand. And this is renewal. All right. It'll buy us some time. So this is a good time to start making my opponent discard. I guess I would prefer to do Mindbreaker first, but then again, if I draw a land, I'll go Mire's Malice. Did not draw the land. So I can go Anticipate plus Infiltrator, which probably is the best since Infiltrator is free damage every turn. Plus we still get to get in with Silent Skimmer. So I can anticipate, possibly find a land, and then maybe even play Mindbreaker instead. But I guess I'd rather have the Infiltrator. Let's anticipate. I think there's a good chance we're getting a land, but we'll see. Demon's Grasp. It's also Blighted Cataract. I might just want the Demon's Grasp for the Skyrider Elf. I think that's probably correct. I mean, land would be good there too, but let's get in with Skimmer. A little life loss there. Blocking's kind of unnecessary, but maybe fears the pumps, I don't know. Infiltrator and pass. So we've got Demon's Grasp for the Skyrider Elf or something spicier, I guess, if my opponent plays it. Like Akum Hellkite would be something we'd want to grasp as well. Okay. Clutching Silent Skimmer. Sure. Infiltrator's real good here. Is a nice blocker. Kind of preventing my opponent from getting in again. I mean, if he gets in with Elf, we get to slam back with Sky Spawner, so I don't actually think that's a great attack for my opponent. Okay. Sure. Okay, so we got the 6th land, which means could Myers Malice, which seems pretty good actually. We're at 11. Guess that would motivate me to leave the Infiltrator back, but I can get in with Sky Spawner here. My opponent cracks back for 3, 6, 8, 10, which is not lethal. Which might make the Malice play better. I can also do Silent Skimmer, which blocks better. But I kind of want to get rid of 2 cards out of my opponent's hand. I feel like that's a bit more brutal. And then I would just get into Sky Spawner so I can block with Infiltrator. It's a little bit of a long-term plan, I guess, since my opponent can crack back with Skyrider Elf again. It's interesting. I just feel like the Myers Malice play is going to be fairly spicy. My opponent's not going to be able to attack with everything, though, I don't think. Also, if I draw a land, I can play Processor, which gains us some life. This is actually a little bit difficult. All right, I think I'm going to stick with the Myers Malice plan, I think. Replaying Skimmer would be decent, too. But let's swing with Sky Spawner here. Let's see if our opponent blocks. Does. Chump. All right. It's Myers Malice. Could have done the Mindbreaker too, but I kind of want to get rid of 2 of my opponent's cards. Territorial Baloth and Zada. Okay. Breaker of Armies. It's going to be a difficult one. So I guess we're going to die on backswing unless I can play Processor, but even if I can... No, if I can play Processor, I'm not dead. All right, can play Processor here. Pretty important. So, yeah, we just get in with Infiltrator and Sky Spawner. and play Processor. Gain 5 life. We're not dead either. So, opponent can't attack with everything unless, even if they do, they need a pump spell, I guess. I mean, I definitely think they're going to attack with more than just Breaker, because they just can't win this race. But if they attack with everything, it seems a bit too dangerous, because then if I have a removal, which I do, I can get rid of potential blocker. Breaker of Armies is only going to be able to kill 2 of my guys, too. So everything's got to block Breaker. We're taking 5. He's got to kill the, yeah, so he's going to kill Processor and Drone. I think I would have killed the Strangler. Ingest seems less relevant than the extra power, but the extra power is not super relevant on this board, so that might be correct. Slide Runner, sure. No cards left in my opponent's hand. So I have 5 attackers to my opponent's going to be 2 blockers. I think I can just kill my opponent then. These 2 are going to get in regardless. So let's say I Demon's Grasp, Channeler, Swing Team. These 2 get in, block, block, take 5, yeah. All right. Close match, or at least close game 2. Opponent, that's actually the first time I've probably withheld the storm that is Breaker of Armies. I mean, we had a nice little Eldrazi battle there, and it worked out well for us in the end. But still, that was a close game. All right, we'll see you in round 2.